and move on, wrap up and talk about Leicester City, Pete, because they lost their PSR commission hearing last Thursday. What is expected now for them? And are the Foxes likely to receive a points deduction?
Yeah, obviously, Leicester do find themselves in all types of trouble with their financial situation. They had their appeal thrown out by that independent commission with the commission ruling in favour of the Premier League. So it seems almost inevitable that they're going to have a points deduction this season. We saw Everton and Forest, who both fell foul of PSR regulations, handed points deductions last season as well. So now they've set that precedent. It seems that they can only do the same with Leicester City. So it's going to be a real tough one for Leicester. They are going to appeal the decision, but I don't know where that's going to get them, really. So we've talked previously on the pod that due to their massive losses over that 3-year period, I think it's more than double the £105 million over the 3-year period. So I don't see them having much leeway to try and win that appeal. So yeah, for Steve Cooper and Leicester, it does look like they will have points deduction, and as if life back in the Premier League wasn't going to be hard enough for Leicester to have a points deduction as well. It's a real hammer blow to them, and it's going to make it even harder for them to try and secure survival in their first season back in the top flight.
In terms of a timeline of the sanction, Pete, what are we looking at? Could it be sort of pre-season potentially? Is it likely to be mid-season, as we've seen with both Everton and Forest? And equally with that, how many points are we potentially expecting for them?
It's hard to know. How long's a piece of string? You never know what the independent commission will recommend for points deduction. You would imagine it would be the 4 points, similar to what Nottingham Forest got from their charge and what Everton got with their second charge as well. So that looks like the starting point, at least. Whether because the figures are so high, it might be even more. We'll have to wait and see. I'm hoping if they do get a points deduction that the Premier League do it before the start of the season. We don't want it during the middle of the season, which we had with Everton and Forest last year, which was not a good look for the Premier League and caused a lot of unrest. So if you're going to do it at the start of the season, so then everybody knows where they stand and Leicester know what they need to do if they are to sort of get enough points to stay in the Premier League as well. But yeah, there's no second guesses on when that might happen, because we guessed last year and we got most time scales wrong as well. So it's a difficult one in that respect. So, but hopefully the Premier League do get their house in order and we have a decision either way before the start of the season.
Paul, from Steve Cooper's point of view, how do you think he'll be feeling about this? And going into next season, what are your thoughts potentially, whether they are to receive 4, 2, 12, whatever, how many points they potentially could receive? What will it mean for their chances of survival?
Oh, listen, it doesn't take a genius to work it out. They're going to struggle anyway. You know, they've lost a couple of players and they're going to have to rebuild in the Premier League. They played really well in the Championship last year. I was impressed with what they did. And I think when they had the 17-point gap, to have that eaten away, but then to still go up as champions, it showed a lot of character in that squad. But actually coming up into the Premier League, we know it's a different level. We know it's a different challenge. But to have points deduction already, you see teams stay up. Look, goal difference, 1 or 2 points. It could be massive for Leicester's season, absolutely huge. But it could galvanise them in the same way that it did with Everton and Sean Dyche. He used it to their advantage. It was us against them, togetherness mentality. And look, we've got nothing to lose. Nobody's given us a chance. We've got a free hit at this league, which is pretty much how it will look for Leicester going into it now with a points deduction. Steve Cooper, listen, he's not blindsided, put it that way. He will have come into that job knowing that this was the potential. This won't have come as a surprise to him. He'll know exactly what he's got to deal with. He'll know the budget that he's got to deal with, and he will have expected a points deduction. Now they'll just be all on tenterhooks, wondering how many points, because like you say, that the breach is so big, they could well incur more points than we've seen in the past. But as we've seen with these independent committees, we can't predict. We don't know. Each ruling's different. Each points deduction's been different. There's been no kind of flat rule across the board, a certain amount of points for a certain amount of financial violation. We don't know. We don't know what to expect. This is a big violation, though. So I wouldn't be surprised if we saw at least 4, possibly 6. And that's going to be a huge, huge uphill task for Leicester to stay in the league if they are given that punishment at the start of the season. But I like Pete. It's got to be done at the start of the season. You can't do it like halfway through the season. We saw the upheaval that it caused, and we saw the problems that it caused, not just for the teams that had points deducted, but for teams around them in relegation fights and, teams wanting to stay in the Premier League. Nobody knew what they had to do. Results were, well, if we win this weekend, that might be enough. Well, actually, it wasn't enough because we got points taken off us. So for everybody involved, it's just a lot cleaner and clearer if it's done at the start of the season.
And in terms of transfer activity, Pete, they've obviously been quite busy, brought some different names through the door. Can you walk us through so far their incomings and any potential further positions that they've targeted going into the window?
Yeah, they've done a couple of deals at Leicester so far. They've brought in Bobby Reid on a free transfer from Fulham. I think that's a decent signing. He's a good Premier League player. He can play in a couple of positions as well. So that'll be a good addition to Steve Cooper's side for next season. They've also brought in a young centre-back from Atalanta, Caleb Okoli. So again, it's an area of the team that Leicester were looking to strengthen in whatever happened with the transfer market this year. So he's a left-sided centre-back. That is one area of the team that even Enzo Maresca was looking to strengthen him before his departure to Chelsea. The big transfer news for Leicester so far has been losing Dewsbury Hall. Massive void to fill. He was Leicester's player of the season last year, was instrumental in them winning promotion back to the Premier League, but due to the PSR regulations, they had to cash in on him, and he ended up reuniting with Maresca at Chelsea. So that's a big blow to lose him. It looks like Wilfred Ndidi is going to sign a new contract at Leicester. Then those talks have been progressing nicely, and it does look, despite interest from other clubs in the Premier League and across Europe, for Ndidi, that the Nigerian midfielder is ready to pledge his future to Leicester. So that'll be a huge boost for Steve Cooper and everyone connected with the club if he signs his new contract. And I think he'll be looking at other areas of the team. Central midfield, I think he'll be looking to strengthen there if he can bring in signings, and also a right-sided winger, I believe, is one area of the team that Steve Cooper is looking to strengthen in as well. There's Matt O'Reilly's been linked from Celtic. He could be the ideal replacement for Dewsbury Hall. Two very similar players, two sort of intelligent goal-scoring midfielders, but it's not going to be easy to try and prize Matt O'Reilly away from Celtic. You're probably looking at a £25 million transfer fee for him, and there is a lot of clubs in for him as well, and probably clubs in a better situation than Leicester right now who can offer maybe Matt O'Reilly European football or the chance to be playing at a higher level than Leicester, who in all likelihood look like they're going to be in a relegation fight next season as well. So again, they might just not be able to afford a deal for Matt O'Reilly. He might go elsewhere. But yeah, Steve Cooper, he's been there before. He's been in a relegation fight with Nottingham Forest, and he will know what's needed to try and help Leicester do everything they can to stay up. And I do expect him to be busy in the transfer market, but those PSR breaches are not going to help them, let's put it that way, because their budget is pretty minimal right now, and they won't really want to incur any more breaches by overspending.
And to wrap up on that, Paul, what do you make of the Matt O'Reilly links? And do you feel he could be the perfect replacement for Kiernan Dewsbury Hall? Would he be an immediate starter in that squad?
Yeah, he's a player. He's a real good player. I mean, I watched him a lot at Celtic last season, and I think Pete's right. There's going to be a lot of suitors for him. And I think what Leicester have to offer, I think others will be able to offer better. And I think when you look at the transfer fees that are thrown around in Europe these days, I think, if you're looking over 25 million, you're breaking records. So I think it's going to have to be a huge fee to take him away from Celtic. Celtic are going to want to progress through the Champions League group stages this season. I think that's going to be a huge aim for them. And with players like Matt O'Reilly, that's obviously going to help their cause doing that. By selling him, they're going to have to allow the money to go back into the side for Brendan Rodgers, which not necessarily hasn't always been done up there. They're a club that's in a very good financial state. And if they sell Matt O'Reilly, there's a lot of money that will go into the bank. For Leicester, it will be a big coup if they're to sign him. I expect him to leave Celtic this window. I expect it to be a big fee, but I don't expect it to be Leicester. I think there'll be a lot of Premier League clubs looking at him, and there's clubs around Europe as well looking at him. Celtic have got all on to keep hold of him. Financially, when you look at the books, you think they can hold on to him. But if they're going to reinvest the money into the squad, is it better to let the manager and the recruitment team do that? But if Matt O'Reilly is to leave, it's going to be a record fee.
You've just watched a segment from Football Insider's brand new podcast, The Inside Track, with me, Lewis Pearce, alongside the guests on the show. Thanks very much for tuning in. Please do give the video a like, comment your thoughts on the topic, and feel free to share on your social media pages. If you want to listen to the full podcast episode, click the link in the description below. Keep your eyes peeled for plenty more content and exclusives here on The Inside Track.